I wanted to make this video earlier, but then I went and got sick, so better late than never. Exalted 3rd edition has evolved slowly but steadily. Newer charms have learned from previous ones, and even though there's nothing super wrong about the solar charms, there are some issues with them, and I have some issues with them. And I do think that they can be improved with some slight revisions. This video and the previous videos in the series are meant to, first of all, review the charms, and second of all, revise those that I think need revision. And as I said, there's nothing inherently wrong with most of them, but charm philosophy has changed, and I think some charms could do well with an update. In the previous video we went through awareness charms, and most of those were fairly solid. This video is going to focus on Brawl. The second of the combat charms. We did archery first. So, I mean, let's just jump straight into the document here. And I am going to make some coffee, I think, as well, so just hold on and I'll be right back. First charm, Fists of Iron Technique. 1 mote reflexive duel. This charm allows the Exalt to parry lethal damage with her bare hands. In addition, her barehanded decisive strike does lethal damage, and her withering damage ignores essence plus intimacy soak. The intimacy in this context can be a tie, as the solar strikes a hated enemy or defends a beloved friend, or a principle, as the solar exalts in the thrill of violence. I think the way many solar charms add intimacy effects to them is something very cool, and I think those are neat ways to make solar charms stick out a bit, so I do like that part of this charm. I am going to leave it alone because I think it does what it needs to do very well. The only thing I would probably suggest as a possible alternative to this is potentially to make the first effect permanent. This effect, but that's it's not super important. I think this charm is good overall. So let's move on to Iron Battle Focus. 3 motes reflexive. 1 turn. Though she may take a beating, the Exalt Resolve is tougher than Iron. The soul may activate this charm to become immune to further onslaught penalties until her next action. Another very underestimated charm. The fun thing about many of these charms is that I remember the first time I read them back in 2015, I think, so almost 5 years ago. I felt that these charms were very underwhelming as well, and to a certain degree they are. I mean, they provide fairly specific effects, and they aren't very visual. They do a certain thing, and most of the time that's a part of the solar charms that I'm critical of. The thing about this charm in particular is that I used to, and I think that many people still do, underestimate Onslaught. After having played through countless fights in Exalted 3rd edition, I've realized that the Onslaught penalty is probably the most dangerous effect you can face. And a clever storyteller who may feel a bit intimidated by the powerful characters, the powerful player characters, and do want to find some ways to beat them down a notch, they should overwhelm those players with numbers, because that's the most effective way to beat them up. And not even a solar can keep their parry up at a in a cost-efficient way if multiple opponents keep beating her down. So this charm is not only solid but extremely necessary for a Brawl Solar, and I do think it's worth keeping as it is. Anyway, let's move on to Ferocious Jab. 1 mode supplemental uniform instant. The Solar strikes your opponent with a Fury Enhanced blow. This charm supplements a physical strike and adds a number of dice to the damage of a withering or decisive attack equal to the target's current Onslaught penalty. Yeah, let me think here for a minute. I know that Ferocious Jab is the beginning of a charm tree that focuses on that particular effect. And with that in mind, I think it's good with that in mind. The problem with a charm like this as a standalone charm is that the Onslaught penalty is... when you take advantage of someone's Onslaught penalty in order to get an improved effect, that Onslaught penalty is dependent upon the actions of other players, and that can be restricting as a player. Because in a standard 1v1 fight, you will make your attack action, then the opponent will make their attack action, then it will go back and forth. And if that's how the fight is situated, then this charm doesn't really do much, because you can't take advantage of an Onslaught penalty that will be reset every time it's the opponent's turn. With the follow-up charms here, you can prevent this, and that's the reason why this charm becomes good later on. But I think it needs something that makes it good even now, and even in a 1v1 situation. What that is, I'm not entirely sure, but I mean, it would be improved with just a minor detail, such as this charm supplements a... If you add this final detail here, then you will guarantee a 1 die bonus regardless. I think that could be a good compromise actually, because you still get 1 additional die, even if they don't have any Onslaught penalties. And if they have Onslaught penalties, if they have more than 1 Onslaught penalty, then the charm will improve. I think this is a minor improvement that does a lot for a low Essence Solar that hasn't gotten the obligatory follow-ups yet. So yeah, let's go with this. And then we have Wind and Stone's Defense. The Solar dances around their foes' attacks or buffets them away with vicious disdain. When the Exalt's initiative is higher than her opponent's, she may use this charm to raise her evasion or parry by an amount equal to her foe's current Onslaught penalty. I mean, it's the same thing here. It's reliant on the later charms, making it quite restrictive and difficult to apply in the early games, and I think that's a bad thing. The effect itself is interesting and does become good, but similar to Ferocious Jab, this needs something to hook a player in the early game. I don't think it should raise evasion though. Not sure. Not sure if evasion should be strictly dodge based and unarmed parry is enough. Not sure. Yeah, I think so. Let's see here. When the Exalt's initiative is higher than her opponent's, it would become more interesting if we change the duration as well. Duration. One tick, I think. Because you use it defensively. Then you only have to activate it once and it will affect all of that opponent's attacks against you on that turn. Or that tick, rather. Yes, let's go with this. Let's go with this. And the next one is my most hated job. Heaven Thunder Hammer. I remember a couple of years ago I was storytelling for a group, and one of the characters was a knight cast with Heaven Thunder Hammer, and she always started every combat by going into stealth and boosting her initiative in different ways. Then she waited until the perfect opportunity, usually when it was her turn, and used Heaven Thunder Hammer to one-shot my bad guys. This frustrated me back in the day, because I didn't really know how to counter Heaven Thunder Hammer or how to storytell around it in a way. The thing is that you want to encourage your players to use the powers at their disposal, and if your players has a power that can deal a hell of a lot of damage, then you need to accept that as a storyteller and use that to elevate the game rather than desperately try to nerf it in some way. That being said, Heaven Thunder Hammer needs to be nerfed. Let's read the charm. Costs 7 modes. Type reflexive, decisive only, instant. At the moment of impact, the Solar sends a surge of essence up her arm and down her leg, multiplying the force of her blow many times over. This charm is activated after a successful decisive brawl attack. If the damage roll generates at least one success, the target is knocked prone by the force of the blow and loses a point of initiative, which is added to the Solar's base value, typically 3. When her initiative resets, this blow strikes with the force of a hurricane condensed into the Solar's fist. The more damaging the blow, the more forcefully her opponent will be knocked away from her. For at least 3 successes, the opponent is lifted and bodily hurled into an object or surface within close range, hitting it with an impact equivalent to falling a short distance, destroying any less obdurate objects he collides with, such as wooden furniture. At 4 or more successes, the foe is knocked into an object at close range with tremendous force, or is sent sailing a remarkable distance by the force of the blow. If the former, the opponent hits a surface with force sufficient to leave cracks in a stone wall, impacting with the surface as if he had fallen from a medium distance. If the latter, the force of the blow throws him to short range with a short distance falling impact. At 5 or more successes, the foe is thrown to short range and suffers an impact like falling from a medium height. The Solar can use Heaven Thunder Hammer to knock her opponent into a high ceiling, forcing him to contend with falling damage on the way down. She might also choose to smash him through a weak point in a nearby wall, causing him to suffer a collapse. She might aim to hurl her opponent into a spike protruding from a surface, turning the damage lethal, or knock her enemy from a rooftop, causing him to suffer a fall from a much greater distance. The player should include environment in their stance to enhance the charm's effectiveness. At Essence 3+, double successes for determining the distance the victim is hurled. At 7+, the victim can be hurled to medium range with a medium height impact. Okay, so the problem with this charm is that falling damage is so fucking dangerous. It is a one-shot kill charm against pretty much most foes that doesn't have any specific anti-falling damage charms, such as a high resistance Solars, for example. I do think the fantasy behind the charm is cool. I do like the idea of a charm that hurls away your opponent after you punch them, And I want to keep that aspect of Heaven Thunderhammer, but I do want to make some tiny tweaks just to make it a little bit unforgiving on the player who uses it. That's to add a little bit more of a risk to the reward. So if the enemy survives, the player should have invested enough in Heaven Thunderhammer to risk getting cornered as a result. So this, my first change, I will keep the mote cost at 7 and I will add a willpower cost. There's one effect that I want to remove, I think. This effect here. I think we can keep the prone effect but remove the initiative drain. It's quite a minor change, but it does make the charm easier to read. And then we have these effects. 3+ successes. So we have short distance. Oops. Yeah. Since I accidentally clicked my way here, we can take a look at these. Short distance, 3 guaranteed bashing, 5 dice bashing. This is definitely survivable. Medium, 4 lethal guaranteed, and 7 bashing dice. This is, for the most part, a killing blow. Then we already have the attack's ordinary initiative damage too, so I would say it's a killing blow for most people, even at short, but let's get back to the charm. What I'm considering is one way to nerf Heaven Thunderhammer would be to remove everything beyond 3 successes and then have the more powerful strikes require additional charm purchases, but I don't think that's the way to go. I think the way to go is to keep the charm as it is and settle with the effect the effects we have already nerfed, the initiative drain, for example, and the additional cost. But this part could probably be removed completely. I mean, double success for determining distance, we can keep that. The Essence 7+ is that's just superfluous. You don't play Essence 7+ games, so remove the Essence 7+ effect. Yeah, let's do it like this. I still think Heaven Thunderhammer could be a little bit too dangerous, but it is a staple charm, so I think people would dislike it if I nerfed it too much. But yeah, let's go with this. Let's keep going. Vicious Lunge. 1 mode supplemental. In a burst of violence, the solar launches herself at an opponent, seizing him with tremendous force. This charm supplements a grapple gambit, adding 1 automatic success to the attack roll, and essence or 3, whichever is greater, dice to the initiative roll. This is sure. It's a good bonus. Not super fun, but it's a good bonus. Unbreakable Grasp. 2 modes per round preserved. Reflexive. The solar tightens her essence around her limbs, making it nearly impossible to pry her off her opponent. The Exalted may use this charm when her clinch control is threatened by incoming attacks, paying 2 motes for every round of control preserved. These motes are paid after the opponent's attack and damage rolls as needed. I think this may be too specific. Unbreakable Grasp. Have I ever used Unbreakable? I have never used Unbreakable Grasp, I think. No. What I'm considering is, should I do something more? This is a hard charm to judge. It could probably be added to Vicious Lunge in a way. I mean, it could be done like this. The effect could be added to Vicious Lunge. The problem is that, what if you didn't use Vicious Lunge? Should you then not be able to use Unbreakable Grasp? You know what? I think we'll keep it, actually. Actually, no, we will not keep it. We'll keep it with one extra benefit. This charm can be used to extend. It could be expanded like this, because that would make it very, very good. Because if you want to maintain the grapple longer than the number of controlled rounds, then you can do so for 2 motes per round. I think that's a good and dangerous addition. I wonder if it's not too powerful now. Let's go with this. Devil Strangling Attitude. Permanent. The fury-driven might of the lawgiver can crush the life from even the gods. This charm allows the soul to roll strength plus brawl to attack with a grapple gambit. At SS2+, she may pay 3 motes to double extra successes on the control roll when using Oak Curling Clinch. The good thing with Devil Strangling Attitude is that you can become an effective grappler with a low dexterity if you have a high strength, by basically replacing dexterity with strength. She will pay 3 motes to double extra successes on the control roll. I think this charm could be superfluous. I think this could possibly be something to merge with Vicious Lunge. Let's. I'm going to try something here. Look at this. Now this is an improvement. Crashing Wave Throw. Yeah, but the upgrade to Oak Curling Clinch is gone now, so we'll have to revisit that when we get to that charm later. Anyway, Crashing Wave Throw. 5 motes, reflexive uniform. instant. The Solar concentrates her anima around the arc of a throw, hurling her opponent like a meteor to the ground. When the Exalt aborts control of a grapple to make a withering or decisive throw, the damage pool is boosted by +2 damage per round of control forfeited by the throw. The Exalt can throw her opponent up to short range. If she used Dragon Coil technique to establish control of a clinch, she can hurl truly massive opponents across the battlefield. At Essence 3, the Exalt may expend 2 or 4 rounds of control, decreasing the throw's damage in order to increase its length, allowing her to throw a foe to medium or long range, forcing him to contend with short or medium distance falling damage, assuming she didn't hurl him into an abyss, an empty well, an open cave mouth, or some other deep fissure. That's a paragraph that can be broken up, I think. Let's go back to the initial effect. You abort the grapple to make a throw, and then you increase the damage by +2 damage per round of control forfeited. That's set damage and not damage dice. Which is the first thing to be changed. +2 damage dice per round. Control forfeited by the throw. At Essence 3+, the Exalt may expend 2 or 4 rounds of control, decreasing the throw's damage in order to increase its length. I think we can keep it. Thunderclap Rush Attack. 3 modes, Brawl 3, Reflexive None, Instant None. Solar's aggression fuels her essence, quickening her movements, allowing her to blur into combat range of an opponent to make a first strike. This charm allows the Solar to move a single range band without consuming her movement action, to make an attack regardless of her position in the initiative order. The attack in this instance must be made the moment the Solar blurs forward, and so this charm can only be activated at short range. This attack counts as her turn for the round and doesn't have to be a brawl attack. If contested by another character using Thunderclap Rush Attack, the better stunt wins. The target of Thunderclap Rush Attack may not use a clash to defend against the Solar's attack unless he's using a charm with the clash keyword. At Brawl 5 Essence 3, the character may add 1 willpower to the cost of this charm. When she uses it against her opponent, it automatically strips Essence or 5, whichever is lower initiative, from her target and awards it to her before the attack is made. This charm can be used once per target per scene, but can be refreshed against a single target by crashing the target. It's a really good charm, but I don't think it should be Brawl at all. Let's continue. Falling Hammer Strike. 1 mode. Supplemental Uniform. The Solar is as relentless as the coming storm. This charm supplements a withering or decisive attack, preventing the Onslaught penalty to her target's defense from fading on its next turn. The Solar's Onslaught can only be abated by escaping her long enough to suffer no attack for at least 1 round. If the Solar is unable or unwilling to attack her target, the effect ends and the target's defense refreshes as normal. Falling Hammer Strike does not maintain Onslaught penalties from other characters' attacks, nor does it supplement grapple attacks. This is the charm I was talking about. It's very good. It's very good. Because when the when numbers are your biggest threat, this charm practically turns you into numbers by making you basically troll your opponent into not resetting. I like it a lot. And as soon as you have this charm, then Ferocious Jab and Wind and Stone's defense become much more powerful. However, prerequisite charms. Ferocious Jab, I think. That's just changing the prerequisite charm to Ferocious Jab instead of Thunderclap Rush Attack. Then it's good. Then it's good. Reckless Fury discard. 3 modes, 1 initiative. Reflexive Perilous. Channeling her rage, the Exalted strikes away a blow at the last second or steps between strikes to get at her target's throat. This charm can be activated after an opponent's attack roll, raising the Solar's parry or evasion by a number equal to the ones in the attack roll. This charm takes precedent over those that reroll ones. This charm takes precedence over those that reroll ones. That's another detail I don't like. I think that if you have a charm that rerolls once, then that charm should reroll once. This should compare the end result. So even a Solar shouldn't be able to mitigate Excellent Strike, for example. So I think that part of the charm should be removed. Remove. This charm takes precedence. So this is a nerf. Could we make it less of a nerf? In general, I'm not a fan of this at all. It's those dice trick charms that I'm not a fan of. Because when a charm has a dice trick and nothing else, then it feels like bloat. So the question is, maybe it should be removed. Yeah, you don't lose too much, I think. Then we have Solar Cross Counter. 3 modes, 1 initiative, 1 willpower. Reflexive, counter attack, decisive, only perilous. The Solar exploits her opponent's attack to unload a vicious counter-strike. This charm may only be used after the Solar has taken withering damage from an opponent at close range. She may use this charm to launch an immediate decisive attack with a base damage of the number of withering damage she just took. And she may unleash this counterattack even if she has already used her attack action for the round. Damage done by this counterattack does not reset the Solar to base initiative. At Essence 3, the Solar may pay an extra willpower to drop the perilous keyword from this charm for 1 instant. I think it's good. Because it does something. It does something interesting. Oak Stunning Blow. 4 modes, 1 initiative, 1 willpower. Withering only. The Solar pulls explosive essence from her extremities, causing them to lance through the point of her strike. Her blow enjoys 1 automatic success on the attack roll and essence bonus dice to damage. Ox Stunning Blow can only be soaked with the target's stamina, but unlike a normal Withering attack, the Solar does not reap initiative from damage successes. Rather, any initiative she strips is rolled again as dice, and for every 2 success, the target suffers a -1 penalty to his defenses and dice pools until his Onslaught penalty wears off. Ooh. Things are getting interesting. An Essence 3 repurchase allows the Solar to gain initiative in addition to penalizing her opponent with roll successes. This is a good one. The thing with that charm is that it's interesting all the way through. It has a neat and powerful effect, and yeah. Burning Fist Burial. Cost 4 motes plus 1 mote per die. Reflexive, decisive only. Ferocious Jab. The Solar's blow sends a surge of solar essence crashing and burning through her foe's bones and internal organs. This charm adds extra successes from a decisive attack to the damage roll at a rate of 1 mote per die, and is activated after the attack succeeds. Ooh. It's deadly. 4 motes. Extra success to the damage roll. Yeah. I think it's good actually. I mean, it's short and simple, but it has a crazy dangerous effect, so I think it's worth keeping. Force-Rending Strike. 5 motes, 1 willpower, reflexive, clash, decisive only, instant. The Exalted glances into the aura of violence before her and knows the course of her opponent's strike, meeting it with a greater violence of her own. This charm allows the Solar to make a reflexive Brawl-based clash attack against an incoming decisive attack. This does not count as the Solar's combat action. Yeah, this is good too. Because it doesn't take up your action, it's very good. And I don't think there's a limit to how many times you can use it, right? You could technically do it several times in a round if you want to pay the cost for it. But overall, I think it's very good. A-okay. And we're getting some progression here. But there's a lot of A-okay charms. Not too many removed ones yet. Let's see where we end up in a moment. Blade-Rebuking Wrath. Cost 5 motes, 1 initiative, Brawl 5, Essence 2, Reflexive Clash Uniform. Wind and Stone's defense. The Lawgiver may clash a withering or decisive attack with such fury that she knocks her foe's weapon from his hands. This clash attack does no damage, but for every 3 extra successes on the attack roll, the opponent's weapon is hurled an extra range band. There is no limit to how far it can be hurled. Using this charm counts as the Solar's attack action. I don't think this has to be a clash attack, actually. I think this can be changed into a general attack. Keywords. Uniform. This charm works as normal. Yeah, I think this is the way to go. Sledgehammer Fist Punch. 5 motes, supplemental, instant. The Exalted concentrates her anima around her fist, increasing its weight and hardness as she strikes a blow against an object. This attack is neither withering nor decisive, and adds strength automatic successes to the damage roll. This charm greatly enhances a strength plus athletics based attempt to punch through an object. If the Solar's totals approach viability for such a feat, this charm allows her to greatly speed up the demolition based on the durability of the object she strikes and the stun she performs. For example, a Strength 3, Athletics 3 character who is properly motivated could use this charm to dash a heavy iron lock from a coffer with a heel over boot, where a simpler feat might involve a brawler who draws her fist along the cobbles of a street or the stones of a wall, pulping the stony surface into fine sand to blind their opponent with a punch. Using Sledgehammer fist punch in such a way may be done reflexively, though the character can still only take a reasonable number of such reflexive actions per round at the storyteller's discretion, but using it to cause harm indirectly by, for example, collapsing a pillar or kicking a stack of barrels down onto someone requires that it supplement a combat action. I mean, I think they wrote it unnecessarily convoluted because there's a lot of fluff and examples that aren't really needed, I think. What this charm does is that it boosts a feat of strength, and I think it does so in a cool way. So let's keep it like that. And then we got the Oak Curling Clinch. Costs 2 motes, reflexive. Locked in a deadly struggle with her opponent, Exalt draws on the inner fire of her essence, channeling savage might into her limbs. This charm may be used after the Solar has succeeded at a grapple gambit, converting extra successes on the attack roll into bonus dice on the control roll. Nice. This is a good one. Let's keep it like that. Burning Proof of Authority. Cost 4 modes, reflexive, indefinite. During a clinch the Solar controls with at least 2 rounds of control remaining, the Lawgiver forces her anima into her hand, gloving it in the scarlet, violet and gold radiance of solar fire before driving it into her opponent's flesh, branding him with the mark of her dominance. This mark is painless and inflicts no damage, but instigates the immediate release of the captive, knocking him prone. So marked, the victim is subject to the Solar's immediate grasp. When she is in close range of the mark, she may reflexively release the motes committed to the charm, pulling the opponent back into the clinch. There is no grapple roll nor a roll to re-establish control. The Exalt resumes control over the captive with the number of rounds of control she had when she branded him. If the Solar does not invoke this power, the brand fades away at the end of the scene and the motes return to her essence pool. Removing the brand requires that the marked character succeed at a grapple with the Solar and wins at least as many rounds of control as those associated with the brand. Neat. Hammer on Iron Technique. I mean, Burning Proof of Authority is cool. Super cool. And mean. I like the visual of it, or the fantasy of it. The mechanical effect is cool as well. So I don't really have any criticism of it. I think it's a neat charm. But anyway, on to Hammer on Iron. 5 modes, 1 willpower, decisive only. The Lawgiver suffuses her body with essence, becoming a virtual killing machine, her arms swinging like trip hammers. Okay. This charm creates a series of up to half strength or stamina rounded up +1 attacks against a single target. Okay. dividing the Soulless initiative up evenly for each strike, then adding bonus initiative sufficient to raise the damage of all of them to equal the highest. In addition, for every blow that lands, the damage of the next is increased by the number of 10s in the previous damage roll. Okay. I mean, it's cool. The only thing I'm thinking about is the half strength or stamina rounded up +1 thing. I wonder if it's... maybe it should just be strength, number of attacks. I don't really feel the stamina in it, I'd say. And then it's the extra maths that's quite annoying. So... but I'm not sure. And why half rounded up +1? Why not just the full thing? Is it because it would be limited at 4 attacks instead of 5? And is that a problem? You're still dividing the initiative. I don't think that's a problem. I also think there's an archer charm that does dexterity attacks. So... works as intended, but does strength number of attacks. Let's go with that. Or maybe... I mean, the +1 is to have a minimum of 2 attacks. Let's go with that. One with violence. Permanent. The Exalted Brawler does not meditate as the monks do, but her violent ruminations are no less weighty. Hers is not a way of blind instinct, but the force-honed circumstance of a natural disaster. This charm enhances the crash bonus the Exalt earns for driving any target into crash with a brawl or martial arts attack, awarding her extra initiative equal to her essence or 5, whichever is smaller. Sure. Let's keep it. Dancing with Strife technique. Reflexive. Reckless Fear Discard, that's the removed charm. So we're going to have to change the... what did we remove? That was a follow-up to Iron Battle Focus, right? Yes. So, Iron Battle Focus. Empowered by violence, the Solar exalts at a song of death in her ears. Once per scene, if the Exalt successfully defends against an attack that rolls Solar's essence or 5, whichever is greater, or more successes, she may use this charm to gain 1 point of temporary willpower. This charm can be reset by defending it. Anyway, Knockout Blow. Cost 5 motes, 1 willpower, plus 1 motes, 1 initiative. Okay, I'm going to explain why I removed the Lost Charm. It's a 1 in scene effect that relies on you to defend an attack that does a specific number of successes in order to get a single point of willpower. First, it's an extremely specific condition, then you get a single willpower for it, and you can only use it once per scene. It's completely a waste of space. So that's why it's removed. Knockout Blow. 5 motes, 1 willpower, plus 1 mote, 1 initiative per die. Simple, withering only. Requires Ox Stunning Blow. The Solar sees a perfect opening and strikes a blow. The apex of her attack suffused by Battering Essence. This attack is like a normal withering attack, but the damage is bolstered by double 9s. Ooh. In addition, if the Solar drives her opponent to crash with this attack, he is immediately knocked unconscious. Ooh, again. The Solar may further enhance the ferocity of this blow, reflexively paying 1 mote, 1 initiative per die to add to the damage of this attack to a limit of the initiative gained by the attack. So the Solar may further enhance the reflexively paying 1 mote, 1 initiative per die to add to the damage of this attack to a limit of the initiative gained by the attack. So the damage is added afterwards. You make a normal withering attack with double 9s. If you crash your target, they are unconscious. At that point, you may choose to pay up to the number of damage you inflicted in order to roll those dice again and add them to the damage. Is that how it works? If a Solar rolls 4 successes on the damage roll, she may spend up to 4 motes, 4 initiative. Right, 1 initiative too. 4 motes, 4 initiative to add 4 additional dice to the damage roll. What about the reset condition? Yeah, we can keep the condition. I thought about whether or not I should expand it a little bit to make it apply to any attack using more initiative than you have remaining to be crashed, but that could make the condition too common. So yeah, let's keep it like this. Cancel the Apocalypse. Cost 5 motes reflexive, non-instant knockout blow. Tearing at an opponent's anima, the Solar rips away an enemy's chance for victory. The Exalt can use this charm upon driving a target into crash, reaching into his soul to rip away at the essence suffusing him. This charm deactivates an ongoing brawl, martial arts, melee or combat attribute charm of the player's choosing, but cannot target permanent effects. Would there be anything wrong with letting it deactivate more charms than that? I'm thinking, could it be used to deactivate an occult charm, an archery charm, an integrity charm? I think I'm going to buff it to have that effect, but I may add a willpower cost to it. Yes, I will add a willpower cost to it. Cost 5 motes, 1 willpower. This charm deactivates an ongoing. I mean, this makes it much more powerful, but I think also much more interesting. I mean, you see someone using Spirit Detecting Glance to scout out your ghost army, and then you punch them in the face and they lose their charm. I think that's cool. I think that's cool. Adamantine Fists of Battle. Cost 4 motes, type supplemental, keywords dual, duration instant. Prerequisite charm, Burning Fist Burial. Which one was that again? That was an AOK one, so. Hardening her fists until they are unbreakable, the Exalt strikes a shattering blow. When this charm supplements a withering attack made with the Solar's bare hands, her strike gains an overwhelming bonus equal to her strength. For example, the overwhelming value of a punch attack is 1, if the solar strength is 5, then the overwhelming for this attack is 6. Okay. On a decisive attack, her damage is lethal, has double 10s and re-rolls 10s. On the tick, she uses the charm, the lawgiver can parry lethal attacks with her bare hands without the stunts. This is pretty powerful for 4 modes. A repurchase allows the solar to use a simple version of this charm with a duration of 1 scene and a cost of 5 modes 1 willpower. That's even more powerful. This version may be activated reflexively for 2 modes 1 willpower if the solar uses the supplemental version to successfully damage an opponent. But do you really need a repurchase for this, or could it be something that we allow anyway? I mean, if that effect is free, then it will be the default effect to use, I'd say. So, but at the same time, it kind of feels like a cheat to force another purchase to basically get the same charm. It's just that you get it for the whole scene. But then again, it's... Let's keep it like it is. I'm too unsure to want to touch it right now. Intercepting Fury's Smite. Permanent. As violence and destruction goes, the solar is an artist and a savant. This charm permanently enhances Force-Rending Strike so long as she is wielding an improvised weapon for the clash. Force-Rending Strike's cost is reduced to 4 modes, and the willpower cost is dropped. Using Intercepting Fury's Smite to succeed at a clash forces the solar to discard her current weapon. It is either destroyed or dropped, forcing her to retrieve it or choose another. Fuck it. I just don't think it's fun. And you have to have an improvised weapon as well. Nah. Let's keep it removed. Fire-Eating Fist. 1 mode supplemental. The solar's... Hold on. The solar strike is guided by the violence she feels in her foe's onslaught. This charm supplements a clash attack, and the ones rolled by the attacker are converted to automatic successes on the solar's clash. Nice. If the solar dissolves an energy attack or burning elemental bolt, her fist becomes wreathed in her attacker's essence, enjoying opponent's essence bonus attack and damage dice. Nice. Attempting to clash a bolt thrown by an assailant out of range of the solar's fist lowers the cost of Force-Rending Strike to 4 modes and drops the willpower cost. Fire-Eating Fist does not create a clash attack on its own, and is expressly permitted to enhance martial arts charms with the clash keyword. At Essence 4+, this effect becomes stackable to a limit of stamina stacks. Therefore, clashing 4 elemental bolts from an Essence 3 opponent, Stamina 4 Lawgiver's Fist would be wreathed with 12 bonus damage worth of pain. In addition, the Exalt may clash away ranged attacks in the exact same manner, treating them as if they were elemental bolts. Note that in all instances of Fire-Eating Fist, clashing a projectile attack by an opponent who is out of range does not result in damage to that opponent. Let's break it down. Supplements a clash. Opponents once become successes for the solar if clashing elemental energy attack. Wait. Solar gains opponent's essence, attack and damage dice on her next attack. Okay. Flashing an out of range energy bolt. Okay. May be used with martial arts clashes. Effect stackable. It may flash away ranged attacks. We have broken it down. Let's talk about it. This effect should be used in the original charm. It should be letting you clash ranged attacks. This effect is superfluous and should be removed. This effect can be kept because it's neat. But you need to specify that these are non-charm dice, because if you're going to stack this stamina times, I mean, an essence 5 opponent and stamina 5 would mean a plus 25 attack and damage bonus, which is impossible to achieve or benefit from because of dice caps. So you need to specify, and I think the charm is supposed to allow for non-charm dice. I'm not sure if it actually mentions it somewhere. But it should specify non-charm dice. So let's keep it like this. Actually, maybe we should only have it work on energy attacks from the start and let it work on any ranged attack at essence 4. Yeah, let's go with this. I'm happy with this. River Binding Wrath. Cost 2 modes or 4 modes, supplemental. The Exalted leaps through her animal like a burning apparition of glorious anger, capturing a foe in her iron grasp. For 2 modes, this charm enhances a grapple attempt or the control roll, allowing the solid reroll 5s and 6s until 5s and 6s. For 4 modes, it enhances both rolls. You don't need this. You're good. You're good at grappling anyway. It's just a waste. It's boring. I mean, it's good. You get some additional successes, but that's it. Wicked Dissolve Dust. 4 modes. Decisive only, reflexive, instant. Curling Clinch, Intercepting, Fury, Smite. No, that one was removed. Force-Rending Strike. Feeling the tide of momentum turn against her, the Solar draws a shield against her doom. When in control of a clinch, the Exalt can use Wicked Dissolve Dust to interpose her captive between herself and her incoming decisive attack, enacting a reflexive dexterity plus brawl clash attack. If her clash succeeds, rather than doing damage to the attacker, all of the damage of the opponent's decisive attack is transferred to her. This is a cool effect. I wonder what if it's... I think it can be kept as it is. Rapturous Cradle. 1 mote, 1 willpower. Lifting her hand, the Solar reaches across the shroud of the heavens to find the one she has marked. Pulling on a brand created by burning proof of authority, she may draw a captive into her grasp from as far away as long range. Nice. The target does not travel the distance between himself and the lawgiver, but blurs into her steel embrace as if she had as if he had never left it. Using Rapturous Cradle automatically releases Solar's commitment to Burning Proof of Authority, removing the brand and resuming its effects in total. This is cool as fuck. Dragon Coil Technique. 3 modes. Devil Strangling Attitude has been removed, so let's change this to Vicious Lunge. The Solar wraps her mighty armor on an opponent and attempts to crush the life from him. The Solar gets Essence automatic successes land a grapple attack, and on the control roll she treats the opponent's 10s as her own single successes. In addition, when the Solar controls a clinch with Dragon Coil Technique, a withering decisive savaging attacks and slams in your Essence bonus dice of damage, the Exalt can choose whether this damage is bashing or lethal. In addition, if the Exalt uses Dragon Coil Technique to defend herself from a grapple and wins control, she can keep control of the grapple rather than merely escaping. Finally, if the Solar uses a Strength plus Brawl to land a grapple attack, Dragon Coil Technique expressly allows the Solar to grapple characters of prodigious size. Tyrant Lizard, River Dragon, Siaka, and other similarly sized beasts are all valid targets for the Solar's Dread Grasp. However, creatures of truly titanic proportions such as Juggernaut or Mount Mostath can only be gripped in bits and pieces, with the most likely result being that the Solar tears away a massive chunk of her opponent rather than being able to roll blah 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 blah. I think this is cool. A-okay. 10 Calamities Technique. 5 modes supplemental. While controlling a clinch, the Solar locks a ruinous hold on her captive in an attempt to force his submission. The player can describe this as any kind of signature, joint lock, chokehold, or scene-resisted torment they can imagine, applying the damage roll normally. Remember, savaging attacks always hit and serve only to boost the damage result per the rules described on page 201. Each consecutive round the character inflicts damage with a grapple, her raw damage grows, +2 per round for withering or +1 for decisive. That's interesting. Thus, a character who made 3 withering attacks and then a decisive attack would enjoy bonuses +2, +4, +6 and +4 respectively. Decisive attacks made with this from Ignore Hardness. 10 Calamities Technique does not enhance throws or slams. There's nothing wrong with it per se. It's just that it feels weird to use it when I try to apply it in a fight. Because you first deal damage, and then you deal more damage, then you deal more damage. What are the likelihood that you will even deal this later damages? Does the damage really have to grow? I mean, feels like it can be annoying to keep track of. I've never used it. I mean, I don't think it's bad enough to be removed. And it can be powerful, but yeah, let's keep it. I'm interested in knowing if you have any other ideas for this round though, because I don't really like it, but just because I dislike it doesn't mean I have to remove it. So Titan Straightening Method. 7 modes, 1 willpower, withering only. Channeling primal strength through a surge of essence, lawgiver winnows and thrashes a clinched opponent in an attempt to shake him apart. The Solar immediately expends all remaining turns of control and makes an equal number of withering savaging attacks. Okay, now that's power. Learning Titan Straightening Method permanently enhances Dragon Coil Technique, allowing the Solar to use it to grapple impossibly huge opponents for the express purpose of using Titan Straightening Method. This does not confer the power to lift slammer. Huh. Now, if you can combine this with 10 Calamities, right? Simple supplemental, yeah, you can. So, this could be very deadly. I like it. Shockwave Technique. 6 modes, 1 willpower, reflexive, withering only, crashing wave, throw. Which one was that now again? Crashing wave, throw. The solar burns with essence, launching a captive at a group of foes. When the solar hurls her captive at a group of foes, the damage roll is enhanced by 4 dice per round of control forfeited by the throw, as described on page 201. The solar throws her opponent at a target within short range. Her captive goes from her like a meteor, blasting through her target and every opponent within short range of him, applying a single dexterity plus brawl withering attack with a base damage of 7 to... Hold on, I need to start over, I think. When the solar hurls her captive at a group of foes, the damage roll is enhanced by 4 dice per round of control forfeited by the throw. The solar throws her opponent at a target within short range. Her captive goes from her like a meteor, blasting through her target and every opponent within short range of him. Okay, so it's bowling basically. Applying a single dexterity plus brawl withering attack with a base damage of 7 to all additional opponents. Why 7? Is there a reason for that? I think I need to break it down. Solar hurls captive at target. That's 4 dice to throw damage. Solar rolls dexterity plus brawl withering attack. Other opponents in short range from target. Base damage is 7 dice. Just says 7, so base damage is 7 apparently. So they just get 7. They are killed. They are knocked out. The question is the dexterity plus brawl withering attack against only the additional targets or the original target? Well, addition. Foe struck by this explosive impact and knocked to the ground, and the damage of the throw is applied to each of them separately. If the solar is crushed when she uses this attack, she still damages each foe, but she only gains initiative from a single target. I mean, it could be that I'm tired, or maybe I'm just stupid, but it feels like this is very poorly written. I think this is nice. Solar dexterity withering attack once against target. I think we can keep this. You roll against the original target. This is when it gets weird for me. I think we're going to change this. The base damage against every affected target is a number of dice equal to the damage inflicted to the thrown target. What about this? Because everything starts with you rolling damage to the character you actually throw. Then you roll that damage to inflict actual damage, and what if you take the successes from that roll, add that as withering damage dice to those you throw the target on. I think that's more interesting than simply 7. Foes struck or knocked prone. Foes struck, foes suffering at least 1 damage or knocked prone. Is it still too complicated, I wonder? If the Solar is crashed when she uses the shield damage each foe, but she only gains initiative from a single target. So she's... I think she should... She gains initiative from a single target. I think that effect can be added to all attacks, whether she's crashed or not. When used in combination with Crashing Wave Throw, not only is the damage of this throw enhanced, but also its range, allowing the Solar to strike enemies out of medium range without... Yeah, we can keep that. Special activation of Shockwave Technique can be used once per combat. In order to reset it, the Solar must deal 10 plus health levels of damage on a single decisive brawl attack. But I think this... I mean, there is a lot to it still, but I think this is better. Maybe this part. If this damage is too much, maybe. But it is 6 modes, 1 willpower. No, I think this is an improvement. Let's go with this. But I should probably rewrite it so it makes more sense. When the Solar hurls... I think this sums up the change in a way that isn't too confusing. When the Solar hurls her captive at a group of foes, the damage roll against him increased by 4 dice per round of control forfeited by the throw. She throws the captive at a target within short range, rolling Dexterity plus Brawl as a withering attack against that target and all other opponents within short range of that target. If successful, she deals a number of dice of withering damage determined by the total damage inflicted upon the thrown captive. If an affected target suffers at least 1 initiative damage from this attack, they are knocked prone. The Solar can only gain initiative from a single affected opponent, regardless of how many are hit. When used in combination with Crashing Wave Throw, the range is also increased, allowing the Solar to affect enemies out of medium range without spending rounds of control as per the rules of Crashing Wave Throw. That's what we're going with. So let's move on. Lightning strikes twice. 1 mote, 1 willpower, reflexive. Crashing Wave Throw, Heaven Thunderhammer. After launching an opponent with one of the prerequisite charms, the Solar channels essence through her arms and legs and rips through the space between, flashing into her opponent to make an additional attack using any ability and allowing the Exalted to reflexively draw a weapon to do so. When the Exalted uses Lightning Strikes twice after using one of the prerequisites to unleash a decisive attack, her initiative does not roll over until after the extra attack has been completed. Okay, that's interesting. Should it be Brawl? I wonder. Yeah, let's keep it as it is. I was just considering if it should be an athletics charm because you can basically transition over to a different combat style, but since it still requires a Brawl attack to start it off, we might as well keep it as a Brawl charm, I think. Oh, it's not done yet. Making this attack has slightly different effects depending on whether the charm was triggered with Crashing Wave Throw or Heaven Thunderhammer. Crashing Wave Throw, the Solar strikes the opponent after it bounces off a hard surface and takes damage from Crashing Wave Throw. When Exalted uses this version of Lightning Strikes twice, you may meet your falling opponent in the air and make a grapple attack with his defense set to 0. Succeeding in the roll for Clinch control means the Solar must make an immediate throw or slam, hurling her opponent to further hard surfaces or driving him bodily into the ground. Heaven Thunderhammer, the Solar must knock her foe to short or medium range on the attack in order to use this charm. Doing so allows her to flash into range before he impacts, cancelling his impact with scenery to strike him again. In this case, the Solar cannot grapple her opponent but makes a strike against him as if it were a surprise attack. Using Lightning Strikes twice counts as the Exalted's movement action, but note that it's possible to move several range bands while chaining multiple uses of this charm. So you can chain it as well. Lightning strikes twice, can only be used once per combat, but can be reset by gaining 10 plus initiative on a single tick. I mean, I still think it's a-okay. It's just, I mean, you can chain it, apparently, by reusing the previous charms. Yeah, let's keep it. Let's keep it as it is. Fivefold Fury Onslaught. Permanent. This charm permanently upgrades the prerequisite allowing the solar to make strength or stamina +1 attacks and adding bonus damage to each successful strike. +1 on the first, +2 on the second, +3 on the third, and so on. I think that because Fivefold Fury Onslaught doesn't really add anything new other than simply buffing Hammer and Iron technique, we might as well remove it and add it as a repurchase or upgrade to Hammer and Iron technique. I think that makes sense. It also makes Hammer and Iron technique more attractive from the get-go if you can see the upgrade already the first time you see the charm itself. So I think this is the way to go. Striving Aftershock method. Cost 2 modes. Reflexive. 1 with violence. Driven on by the flow of violence, the solar hones her essence into her limbs, assuming a more perfect position for her next strike. After landing a decisive attack which resets her to base initiative, usually 3, the solar may use this charm, adding +2 to her base initiative value. I mean, the effect is useful. +2 to initiative value. You pay 2 modes and reset at 5. Question is it worth a charm purchase? I'm not that convinced, actually. I don't think it's good enough to require a charm purchase, so superior violent knowledge. Prerequisite charms. 1 with violence. Foremost reflexive indefinite. The lawgiver looks beyond her next attack and sees the battle's course unfold. She may use this charm at any time to reflexively store up to stamina initiative. Thenceforth, upon making a decisive attack, she may choose to reflexively release her commitment to superior violent knowledge, pouring stored initiative into her attack's raw damage to boost it. This charm expressly allows the Exalted to launch a decisive attack while crashed. Special activation rules. Using superior violent knowledge at the start of her turn does not affect her place in the attack order or the current round, but will be reflected in subsequent rounds. Stored initiative cannot be targeted or stripped by withering attacks. Unless used, this charm's effect wears off at the end of combat. I think this is a pretty good charm. This is interesting. Inevitable Victory Meditation. 3 modes to initiative. Superior violent knowledge. The solar takes a moment to assess her surroundings in order to determine the most effective channel for violence. Roll wits plus brawl and store the result. The Exalted can reflexively use this result in place of a brawl roll at any time. Stocked successes can be used to bolster defense at a rate of 2 successes per Stocked successes can be used to bolster defense at a rate of 2 successes per parry or evasion. These successes fade at the end of the scene. At Essence 4+, the roll gains Essence automatic successes. This charm becomes reflexive if the solar beats all of her opponents in a joint battle roll or if she knocks an opponent prone. I like that effect. So, you take an action to assess the situation. You store the successes. And then you use it to bolster defense. 2 successes. I have been nerfing some defensive charms previously in order to remove evasion from the equation. Mainly because I wanted to make dodge more valuable. I think that for this particular charm, evasion should remain. And that's because the fluff surrounding it is different. I mean, you study the opponents, you study the situation. You're not just, deflecting the attacks. So I think this could be kept as it is. Yeah, A-okay. Incarnated Fury Attack. Man, all the more interesting charms are at higher essence. 10 emotes, oh my god. 3 anima, 1 willpower. Drawing down on a crashed opponent, the lawgiver channels all the fury of her anima into her fists and strikes a world-rending blow. This is an unblockable, undodgeable withering attack with double 7s on the damage roll. Okay. The Solar's anima must be at bonfire in order to use this charm, as she sheds her entire anima into the attack and returns to the dim level. Unblockable, undodgeable. There's no such thing as a perfect defense, is there? I can't really recall. Question is, should there be a perfect offense? Let's keep it, just because it's badass. Orichalcum, Fists of Battle. Cost 8 motes, 3 anima, 1 willpower, plus 1 mote per turn. Adamantine Fists of Battle times 2. While using the scene-long version of the prerequisite, the Solar may channel the raw fury of her iconic anima down into her fists, suffusing them with blazing solar essence. For the rest of the scene, her decisive attacks ignore hardness, and her base initiative is increased by 1. In addition, when she is at base initiative or lower, her decisive damage gains essence bonus dice and re-rolls 1s and 10s until 1s and 10s fail to appear, retaining any successes from re-roll 10s. This effect costs 1 mote per turn to maintain. This charm requires 3 levels of anima to use, and use of this charm returns the lawgiver's anima to the dim level. While this charm is active, the Solar's fists glow gold to white and her cast mark shines brightly. These effects cannot be muted. I mean, it's badass. I'm just thinking about the 10s. You reroll 1s and 10s. You reroll 10s while retaining the successes from them. But wasn't there another charm that had you reroll 10s, or did I remove it? I think I may have removed that one. I'm just thinking about whether or not rerolling 1s is enough. It's a slight nerf. But let's keep it. Let's keep it. Raging Wrath repeated. Foremost 1 willpower, reflex save. 10 Calamities Technique. Didn't I remove that? No, I didn't. The Solar Surging Destructive Essence is redoubled when she breaks an opponent with her own hands. If the Solar crashes an opponent she is clinching, she may reflexively activate this charm, resetting her combat action and restoring all the rounds of control that she had. Oof. That's painful. I like it. Very painful. Rampage-Berserker Attack. 7 modes, 3 initiative, 1 willpower. Perilous withering only. Fivefold Fury Onslaught. That was removed. So what's the new prerequisite? Hammer and Iron Technique. The Solar shatters her opponent's limbs and torso with a barrage of essence-fueled blows. Roll a normal Brawl-based Withering attack, but instead of using extra successes for damage, each extra success determines how many times the Solar strikes her opponent and how many times the damage of her attack is repeated. This attack may only be used once per scene, but it can be reset if the Solar incapacitates a powerful or impressive opponent. I like it. It hurts, but I like it. Supremacy of War Meditation. Reflexive. Once per ascent to iconic animal, lawgiver may use a free full brawl. Fuck that. Remove this charm. I hate charms like that. Apocalypse Flare Attack. 3 modes, 2 initiative. Fire-Eating Fist. The lawgiver reaches deep into her essence, drawing forth a mountain-crushing surge of spirit pressure that burns like a small sun between her hands. The Solar then hurls this flare of burning essence like a comet to strike a foe she can perceive at an range. The base damage for this attack is any damage the Solar has gathered with Fire-Eating Fist. In addition, the Exalt may choose to pour 3 levels of Anima Banner into the attack, shedding them to give the attack 3 automatic successes and essence additional damage. This attack does not include the Exalt's initiative and does not return her to base value. So that can be pretty dangerous if you have stacked up a few effects. I like it. Let's keep it. It's very situational, but I still like it. Heaven Fury Smite. Sensing her opponent is near collapse, the Exalt lashes out with a lightning-fast decisive attack. Heaven Fury Smite can be used when the lawgiver lands an attack that drives her target into crash. It automatically resets her attack action, allowing her to attack again instantly so long as she launches a decisive attack against the crashed opponent. This attack may be made with any viable ability. The Solar experiences a burst of speed that allows it to reflexively draw a weapon, be it a sword or a nearby tree branch. I like that too. It's a bit like 1 weapon 2 blows from melee, but Essence 5. Ascendant Battle Visage. Cost 15 motes, 3 anima, 1 willpower. Supremacy of War Meditation, which is removed. So channeling her anima through her physical form, the lawgiver merges with her iconic manifestation to become a Visage of Divine Wrath. Her hair may lengthen and change colors while her skin darkens towards the spectrum of solar anima. Her eyes glow white, her voice echoes and thunders, and she roars for 30 episodes. And her body becomes the blazing imprint of tattoos and markings that represent her iconic form, alive and glowing within her fire. During this time, her anima licks the air as if it were burning, but will neither rise to iconic or fall to dim so long as this charm's mote cost is committed. During this time, the Exalt moves with terrific speed. She may rush with double 7s and may rush with her strength instead of dexterity, flying toward her opponent in great leaps. If her opponent is 3 or more range bands away, she may move 2 range bands to approach him until she is within medium or short range. During this time, she may clash any attack as her combat action, without having to delay, and if she successfully clashes a ranged attack, she immediately flashes into close range with her opponent, clashing, blurring over the distance and striking her target all in the same instant. Furthermore, Ascendant Battle Visage makes the Solar incredibly resilient. For the duration of the charm, no amount of withering damage can crash her unless it is delivered from close range. If the Solar knows Orichalcum Fist of Battle, she may activate that charm and its prerequisite reflexively when she assumes this charm, paying only 6 motes and ignoring the anima and willpower costs to do so. In addition, if she knows the charm Fire-Eating Fist, she may store damage from any attack she clashes with or without charms. If she knows the charm Apocalypse Flare attack, she may unleash that attack at the iconic level without expending her anima or ending this charm's effect. I'm scared. "15 modes. I mean, this is very overpowered, but if you remember the previous episode when we were talking about Eye of the Unconquered Sun, we did keep the charm even though it was very overpowered. I do think there's a problem that the charm has so many different elements to it, because a good charm is something you should more or less remember. This is a charm you cannot apply without first reading it 2 times. I see that as a problem, and I think it can be improved without really taking anything from it, I believe. I mean, if you look at this, at least this part I would say is fluff. It's cool fluff, but I mean, a good charm should have a sentence of fluff, and the rest should be mechanics. So this is just showing off. This is one effect, 2 effects, 3 effects, 4 effects. But I think this is fine. I mean, you could probably remove the double 7s part from rush actions and keep the rest here and still have a pretty powerful and fast charm, but I think it can be kept as well. The problem is that there is overlap with I think there's overlap with athletic charms. I can't really recall if... Maybe not, now when I think about it. Maybe they do stack. I was thinking if any of the athletics rush charms give double 7s or not. Maybe not. Probably not. She may clash any attack as her combat action without having to delay. And if she successfully clashes a range, she immediately flashes into close range with her opponent. Clashing, blurring over the distance, striking her target all in the same instant. I mean, it's visually cool, but I'm not sure if this is really... This is a bit superfluous, I think. She may clash any attack as her combat action without having to delay. And if she successfully clashes a ranged attack, she immediately flashes into close. I think this can be removed. Remove that part. Keep the second part. This effect though, that you can't be crushed. Crashed, I mean. I mean, something should be able to crash the character, I think. I mean, sure, close range works. You completely negate range targets. Is that a problem? I think it could be a problem, but I'm not sure. Guess we can keep this part. I'm skeptical. I think that maybe the charm should allow any attacks to crash them, but I mean, it's still powerful. Let's keep that. Orichalcum Fist of Battle can activate the charm is percussive reflexively. That's cool. Let's keep that. Paying only 6 motes and ignoring the anima willpower cost. What was the cost of that charm? 8 motes. 3 anima. Let's change it to this. I don't think there's any real point in adding a surcharge other than making things a bit more complicated. If she knows the charm fire-eating fish, you restore damage from an attack she clashes with or without charms. I mean, it does enable that charm a bit more, because energy attacks are quite rare. So yeah, let's keep the rest of the effects. These changes is enough. It's still too powerful in my eyes, but since it's a capstone charm, I think I would like to limit it even further, making it once per story, but I wonder if that's a bit too much. Let's settle with this. So, that was the final charm. Let's go back and take a quick look. Brawl, Fists of Iron technique, okay. Okay, Ferocious Jab was buffed a little bit. Wind and Stone's defense was also buffed and the duration was changed to 1 tick. Heaven Thunderhammer was nerfed. It's still a powerful charm, but I think it's a well-deserved nerf. Vicious Lunge was buffed. Yes, it was buffed. We made that one permanent and added the Devil Strangling Attitude effect to it. Unbreakable Grasp. It was buffed a great deal. And I do stand by this effect. I think it's a great effect. Crashing Wave Throw. Dice per round. Oh, right. It was written 2 damage per round. I think it was actually meant to be dice, but it just wasn't stated in the charm. So Thunderclap Rush is an athletic charm. I stand by that decision as well. We removed Reckless Fury discard. And then we buffed Blade-Rebuking Wrath to work for all attacks and not just clashes. We buffed Hammer and Iron technique. But we did limit it as well, because now it doesn't apply to stamina, but I still think it's a good change. We removed Dancing with Strife. We changed Knockout Blow to be once per opponent per fight instead of simply once per fight. We buffed Cancelled Apocalypse to work on any charm and not just combat charms. We removed Intercepting Fury Smite. We did make some changes to Fire-Eating Fist, but I can't really recall. I think we removed an effect. What effect did we remove? Yeah, we removed the cost reduction. We removed River-Binding Wrath. And we made Shockwave Technique a little bit more easily handled. We removed Fivefold Fury and moved it to Hammer and Iron technique. We removed Striving Aftershock method. And then there's a bunch of AOK charms. I think the Brawl charms overall, when you look at the overview here, makes most of them seem fairly okay actually. And I do think many of them are good. There's a few that stand out that feel a bit more like bloat or too situational, and those are the biggest problems. But overall the charms here are fairly good, and I can tell that the Brawl charms or combat charms in general are usually the most carefully written ones. Those are the ones that require the most playtesting for the most part. And I imagine that these Brawl charms did go through a lot of playtesting. There weren't too many boring charms as well, which I like, so I think the Brawl charms overall were quite decent. But this is it for today. Next up are the Bureaucracy charms, and those could be interesting because none of those really apply to heavily mechanical situations. Bureaucracy charms tend to be very narratively focused, and in my opinion, from what I remember, I think many of them will actually be very good because of that, and work very, very well with minimal need for change. But we'll have to explore that more next time. These Brawl charms will be added to the Google document if you want to check them out on your own time, so you can see a link in the description below for those. And I don't know when the Bureaucracy charms will be released, but I will try to get to them much quicker than I got this video out, so hopefully not too long. Anyway, I think that's enough for today, so if you like this video, make sure to comment below, share, like, and subscribe. If you watched all the way through, then I like you a little more than those who don't, so that's nice. Anyway, until next time, see you in creation.